thobela le amogetše go Leihlo la Sechaba lebitso la ka ke nna Lethabo le Joy la ga Mathato monna wa ka Soweto o latofatša khamphane ya go tsomana le difatanaga tšeo di utswitšwego gore e ikhula ka leano la gage mola yena ba mo tswalletše ka ntle o re a ka se bopate go fitlha a fiwa seo e lego sa gagwe. Good evening and thank you for joining us. Tonight we look into intellectual property rights.
Didiriswa kgotsa tiro tsa botaki di tlhodilwe ke tlhaloganyo tsa batho go leka go fitlhelela maikutlo a rileng kgotsa go bona tharabololo ya bothata jo bo itemogelwang. Ebile go na le melao e mametleletsweng mo molaong wa naga go sireletsa tiro e gore e seke ya utswiwa le go dirisiwa ntle le tumelano ya motlhami wa yone.
Everyone might talk a chelete, but to be stripped of something that is your own, something in ya gago e thusa botlhoko.
O na le monyetla wa go ya ko khotho wa gopela dilo tse di bitsang di-damages.
It's a very complex business, but that's why entrepreneurs, that's why their job is a very difficult one sometimes.
Rankepile Molawa ke moagi wa Dobsonville mo Soweto o dumela gore setheo se segolo sa go bona dijanaga tse di ka tswang di utswitswe kgotsa di amegile mo kotsing se utswitse kakanyo ya gagwe.
It's mine, they stole it, they're using it, they're benefiting from it. I am not, but I'm the patent holder.
Rankepile a re kakanyo eo e ne e ikeletse go thusa batho ba ba ka iphitlhelang ba amegile mo kotsing ya sejanaga mme ba sa kgone go bua.
It's directly linked to your vehicle's airbags to help you in a situation whereby if there is an impact, it registers impact and it relays information to emergency personnel, depending on the severity of the impact.
A re kakanyo e rotloeditswe ke go bona mo dikganyeng batho ba fitlhelwa morago ga matsatsi ba tlhokafetse mo dikoloing tsa bone.
There was this other guy that I don't know his name. He was going somewhere home and then koloi tse fitla mo bridging ya wela ka fotla sa bridge. Ba mo kraya, I think something that happened over the weekend. Ba mo kraya, I think a couple of days later. Especially when you go out in rural areas where it's quiet. The areas smaller, how level, no one's gonna even know you're there, So if you cannot get yourself out of that situation, who's going to help you? You see, it's a problem. You could die there.
Ntle le gore kakanyo ya gagwe e ne e le ntle, o ne a batla go e fetola tiro ya gagwe le go itirela lotseno.
I was planning to make money out of the idea. I was planning to make a career out of that because, I'm what you call a petrol head. I love cars. I thought, okay, there isn't in those sectors where, people are innovative. They contribute. You always hear, this is coming from Germany, this is coming from China. It's as if we're not innovative, but yet we are. Why not try it?
Dingwaga di ka nna 20 morago ga leano leo Rankepile ga ise a dirile sente e ntsho.
Everyone might talk a chelete, but to be stripped of something that is your own, something in ya gago e thusa botlhoko because of now a lot of us, we are depicted as consumers. We're not looked at as people that are capable of being innovators and all that. That's why you hardly hear of, and there are black inventors, and then you don't hear anything about it.
A re o ne a kwadisitse kakanyo ya gagwe le setheo sa Companies Intellectual Properties Commission go thibela gore ope a sa mopota kwa pele.
You must do a search. So we go SABC in 2003, ke searcha in relation to what I wanted to patent. Okay, now, that is to help you the process. You're infringing on someone else's rights. So I discovered, no, there wasn't anything. So I filed for a provisional application for a concept called information distribution system.
Setheo sa Companies Intellectual Properties Commission se sireletsa tiro ya batlhami le bataki. Ke setheo sa puso se se neileng maikarabelo a go bona gore botlhami jwa batho ga bo gatakiwe ka maoto.
Patent le copyright le trademark le design di wela ka fase ga intellectual property. Re ka no re intellectual property e na le 4 domains or 4 areas, depending on whether you have produced a patent, a design, copyright, or a design. So, and the sabobedi ke gore each and every domain in its own legal framework, which spells out the definitions, the duration of the right, and how invention is made, how creative work is made. All those requirements are spelled out clearly in the acts. When you copy my work, and based on that you make financial gain, that's problematic. That's where intellectual property comes into being. And ke mo loreng ka khona go sua ka claim tsona di damages tse be ke bolela ka tsona or ka khopela interdict.
They were charging about 1,999 for the whole feature ya teng ya crash alert inclusive. I get to how much did they make? They've already made billions as we speak. And now for the fact that the beneficiaries, like I said, bo Discovery, My Way, First for Women, even the 911 Netcare, it's also a beneficiary because all of those companies, they use Netcare 911. So Netcare is actually a beneficiary out of that feature.
Fa go gopola setlhopha sa naga sa kgwele ya dinao Bafana se rekile tetla ya go dirisa leina leo morago ga gore setheo sa Stanton Woodrush se tse leina leo mme le se kwadise jaaka la sona.
Bafana or SAFA be sontse ba itlile mo ya checka ka ga registry ya rena gore na go na le motho a registerile. That's the first thing they should have done. And aba go jo re registerile, if they still want to use it, ba ka na ba approach that person who has registered it, or a ka na ba rekisitsa yona or I license, because intellectual property offers options. You can either sell, license, or collaborate.
Vodacom le yone e le baganne le kgwetlo e kgolo kgotlatshekelo e laetse gore Nkwasana Makate o tlileng ka kakanyo ya Please Call Me a duelwe.
The reason why we support Nkwasana Makate as a township boy came with a world first invention that has been enjoyed and used by the world. But the benefits of Please Call Me movement, of the Please Call Me invention, is benefiting all the corporates except him. So as you heard in court, it's now what, 23 years this year, and he has not got anything.
Molawa a re ka ngwaga wa 2003 o tsele matsapa a kwadisa kakanyo ya gagwe le setheo sa CIPC gore e seke ya utsiwa ke ope. O makaditswe fela ke go bona papatso ya kakanyo ya gagwe mo mebileng ya Johannesburg.
So Billboard said it said something e bitswang crash alert. So I was kind of curious because you could see 2 vehicles that had collided. And then some information, so I couldn't tell exactly what that was. So I just said, okay, let me Google this and just put in crash alert. Crash alert, crash alert, it's exactly what I patented.
I'm a prosecuting attorney, or prosecuting patent attorney. So I help with the process of getting your patent set up and your intellectual property sorted. I don't necessarily work on the litigation side of things that much. And so I have helped clients before to advise them about their ideas, how to protect those ideas. Patent is a form of intellectual property, and intellectual property it's a subset of ordinary property, but it's directed specifically towards creations of the mind rather than like a house or a form of physical property. Specifically, a patent is as I said, it's a form of intellectual property, but it's directed towards technical innovations. So things that can be used in trade and industry. the right that you get for a patent is a negative right. It's a right to prevent other people from doing certain things. So specifically from making the patent or making the invention, using it, exercising it, selling it, offering it for sale, or importing it into the country or the jurisdiction that you have that patent.
Go ka lebelela trademark, patents and design, except copyright. O tla mo CIPC o apply for a registration ra offer certificates or now your design is protected. Now your copyright, your trademark is protected, patents. And then with that, it's a proof that you are the owner. Any person who does what they are not entitled to do with that, you can sue them.
After a year, I applied for a full patent. I applied for a full patent, and then the full patent was granted. Now, I've got a patent certificate. Now I've got proof. I have documents that substantiate from inception. Research, provisionally, apply for the full patent. And yet, nothing. We put clearly.
Molawa a re morago ga go bona papatso ya matrix mo mileng o ile a leka go buisana le bona mme ba ne ba sena maikaelelo a go mo reetsa.
I've approached them. Like I said, I've sent them in 2014. We sent them a cease desist letter to say, look, you are infringing on my patent. You are required by law to consult with the registrar to say, meaning me. So scrap it off. So the cease desist is to also give them the opportunity to either they engage you or they engage with the CIPC to say, no, scrap it off. They did not. To show that they did not come up with that concept. They are aware of that. They said, look, we came up with this in 2002. 2002, and then we don't believe the idea which are exactly the same. Even a layman, when they read that, they'll be able to see, no, this is exactly the match. Now, my question to them was that, but now, if you came up with this, to have a monopoly in this business, while in Nelisai patent, because it's not patented, the registrar will not issue the same patent to two different people.
Matrix e paletswe le ke go ntsha bosupi jwa gore kakanyo eo ke ya bone.
They could have challenged it at any time. They got all the money in the world to say no, but they couldn't. So they know that what they've done is wrong. So I wanted to notify them and give a ETC na kwelite. No. No, you can run and go ahead and have it scrapped off by the CIPC. So they owe me billions.
Rankepile o nagana gore ba ka tswa ba mo potile kwa morago.
Clearly, someone went there, did a bit of research, and thought, anyways, this guy's not going to make it. Or, number two, when, like I said, I went to Jeddah. I spoke to them there. You never know. One of the people there, one of the directors could have gone there and said, look, this guy's not going to make it. What la funding? Let me come on board. I'm coming up with something. You never know. It's also a probability. But at least the non-disclosure will protect me.
Go kile ga nna le tiego e kileng ya tsa le ga ka ntlha go tlhoka madi gone.
So there was a delay. So instead of me getting the patent approval done in 2006, it was approved in 2010 because of the penalties that I was incurring. They were penalizing me for not having submitted the original blueprint. So there was a company called Bowman Gilfillan, Mo Senton. They said, okay, we can help you, we'll revive this thing. Penalty CD 6,000. Pay the penalties and then everything will be fine. And I paid and then the certificate was issued. Now, once you have a patent, they post-date it back to the original date. Submit. October 2003.
South Africa is a little bit different to other jurisdictions. In most other jurisdictions, you go to the patent office, you take your patent application, you go and you give it to the patent office, you pay your fees, The patent office then will examine that application and they'll come back to you and they'll say, this aspect is novel, this aspect's inventive, this aspect isn't, etc., etc. South Africa doesn't work like that. At the moment, we have what's called a depository system. So they go and they check that your application is formally compliant. In other words, that all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed, that you've paid the requisite fee, and then the application will go more or less to grant.
A re fa o na le bothata jwa gore gongwe ditshwanelo tsa gago jaaka motlhami di ka tswa di gatikilwe, o batle mmueledi.
If you have a patent and you think that it's been infringed, obviously, and I mean, obviously I would say this, you go and talk to a patent attorney. Most of us are willing to do an initial consultation for free. You can, as I say, most of us, you can get hold of us, you can come into our office, you can chat to us about your invention, you can chat to us about the situation. Lawyers like talking about the facts of the case because the facts will determine whether infringement has happened or not.
Petse a re go gontsinyana go maAforika Borwa a tshwanetseng go ithuta. Batlhami ba le bantsi ga ba itse ditshwanelo tsa bona go sireletsa tiro ya bona.
Re sale a developing country, so sometimes o hwetjelo di-case tse dintši a di court. Batho ha ba tsebe gore ba na le di-rights. O hwetše motho a dirile ntho e botse, o mongwe a tla no mo tšeela a sa tsebe gore o na le di-rights jaaka di-exercisang.
Ga se patent fela e sireletswang ke molao, go na le tse dingwe tse di tshwanang le copyright, trademark le design, ebile melao ya tsone e farologane.
Copyright's a different form of intellectual property. It's directed towards a different purpose. So whereas a patent is directed towards protecting a technical concept or invention, copyright is directed towards stopping other people from, well, copying. And it's usually it's not copying anything, it's copying a subset of things. So copyright is defined in our Act in terms of things like literature, works of art, audio recordings, things like that.
Copyright re ka no re ke tokelo yo re fa go motho ge a dirile dirišwa tše dingwe tša go swana le dibuka, mmino, baesekopo, e ka ba computer program, e ka ba a pentile somewhere. Na go ka molao wa rena le molao wa lefase e le go World Intellectual Property Organization, re fa motho tokelo ya go ba yena a nang le bongwe go ba yona ownership ge re bea ka sekgowa go di dirišwa tšeo. Ge a šetše a ena le yona tokelo eo, e ba yena a nnoši a tle go rekiša dirišwa tšeo go ba go dumelela ba bangwe gore ba di diriše.
Gone ga go ka fitlhelwa gore mongwe o itlhokomolositse ditshwanelo tsa motlhami ka go dirisa tiro ya gagwe ntla le tetla, motho o a ka lebagana le kotlo.
Go ka lebelela melao e re šomišang gone jalo, o na le monyetla wa go ya ko court wa gopela dilo tse di bitsang di-damages. A ke no re mohlomong ba šitše ba rekišitše dikopi tša buka ya gago, tša mmino wa gago, o ka gopela di-damages because re ka no re o experienceitše economic loss.
What I often say to clients, and this is to all clients, is one shouldn't think of patents, copyright, all these forms of intellectual property, you shouldn't think of them in isolation. They are something like they're a legal tool that you can use to assist your business.
Skara re level intellectual property ra bona as a system ya o dira tšhelete fela o ba di le go dirišwa. O ka levelela it's a developmental system. Without yona we can't develop. You can also cross borders with intellectual property and make business in other jurisdictions and get money and come back and grow our economy. Yeah. And that is how developed countries are making money.
To you, and that piece of
le fa seemo se tla se mo fedisa pelo ka ntlha ya bonya Rankepile a re ga kitla a latlhela seditsi go fitlhela mongwe golo gongwe a mo thusa a re o ne a ratile gore gongwe go dulwe fatshe go refosanywe dikakanyo gore go ka kopangwa matsogo jang gore go se nne le ope o reng o tsieditswe.
I wanted to find someone who would be able to understand what patent law is, that would be able to communicate le bone in a manner that would not be threatening to them, that would maybe allow them to say, okay, let's sit down and see what this person has. So they refused. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. Like I said, I'm a fighter. Yes, moto tsama o nyema moko mo tsileng mare for the fact that you are the holder. Ana ga ke bui ka ke fopoletse ke bua ka bopaki bo ke na le mbone. You know, it's completely different from even a case here Mtakolo what police call. He had no patent rights yet, whatever. He had nothing. It was just a verbal agreement. There's never been any dialogue between us. After the lawyer said no, ga di tshwane, the idea ga di tshwane, ga ba bone ga ba nagane le gore yaka it's valid. But yet they had the opportunity to can call the CIPC and say here's a name, because if you Google me, what's your Lina Lesfan, you offer the publication at the government gazette, at the patent. I've met a couple of people, unfortunately they were not specialists at patent law, but they could see but somehow they would disappear, you see. It just didn't make sense. There was one lady that I got before. From what I heard was that Matrix Iliam offer some legal things to do or whatever. And company was assisting me at Bowman Kilfillan. They knew Horiatwana. I mean, they were 100%. That's why they were trying to make sure Horbang assista Horkikreye the final patent certificate.
It might be that once you dig into it that this is a very thin case. It might be that if it's a very weak case, it might be very hard to, without any, if the client is struggling to pay you, it might be very hard to justify going on a no fees basis and then trying to recoup costs later on from any damages. But it might be that it's a toss-up. It might be that the facts are unclear. It might be that there's multiple different issues that sort of, that it's a fairly messy. It's a fairly messy business. It might, as I say, it might just be the issue of that you say this particular person doesn't have many resources to draw on. Unfortunately, our courts, they provide law, not justice, is the classic saying. And law is unfortunately a reasonably expensive exercise. And again, this is all something that you'd have to go to the courts and you'd have to go and start laying out the case, start laying out the facts of the case that support your version of events.
Ke ka fa re fitla mafelong a lenaneo la rena bošegong ba legono e ba le rena gape bekeng e latelago mošupologo se fa gare go tšwa go iri ya seswai gona mo go SABC 2 go bola gabotse gore o ka re ngwalela go Leihlo la Sechaba sabc.co.za goba o ka kgona go boledišana le rena gape letlakane la rena la Facebook go bola gore manane wa rena ka moka a Leihlo la Sechaba gona wa humana gape go YouTube go kwa ka lenaneo le latelago netefatša gore tlho ya tsebe go thobela FM le Sedi FM motswedi FM mošupologo mesong ka gore yalo ba re motho ga bogala I be broko.